What up, what up? Thanks for being here. This episode is all about Disney 1, 2, 3, 4 Toy Stories. I wanted to start this series off with this particular subset of movies. I'm not going to spoil all the other ones that I'm going to do, but I have a handful of other ones I'm also going to do to go along with this series. I love psychology. I love breaking shit down. So part of why I wanted to do this is because Disney has really upped their game with some of the gems they're dropping psychologically in their movies. They've been doing this for a long time, but with Pixar and the way we're doing movies now for kids, that literally has just gone through the roof. So I wanted to start with Toy Story. I hope you like it. We're going to get into it. This is your spoiler alert. If you have not seen any of the Toy Story movies and you want to watch them without them being spoiled, then don't listen to this podcast. I suggest you watch them first. If you don't care, that's fine, but there is like a ton of spoiler alerts throughout this entire episode. Literally the entire episode. That's all it is. So you've been warned. Okay, once again, thanks for being here. Let's get into it. Most people who know me know how much I do not care for Disney. I think part of it is my built-up resentment from childhood. I used to watch Disneyland commercials, and I used to just like dream about going to Disneyland, like thinking how bad I wanted to go to Disneyland. You know how old I was when I went to Disneyland for the first time? I was 33. I took my son because his dad died that year. So that goes to show you how it took me forever to get there, number one. And then once I got old enough to realize what mind control in the 60s looked like and what CIA operatives were, and programming, subliminal, and fucking outright behavior programming. Anybody who wants to pretend like Disney doesn't have behavior teaching mechanisms in it is blind. I say that in a bad way. Like that, I mean that in like a, you are willfully being ignorant as fuck to the situation. There is zero fucking way that's not programming. So I take it pretty seriously because I think as a kid, I didn't have experiences that a lot of other people I know got. Almost everybody I knew went to Disneyland at some point. This was not on the agenda for my childhood. By the time I got to my mid-20s and realized all of these kind of heinous things about Hollywood and the underbelly of things, I realized that Disney was just something that we were handed as kids to get us prepared and to hopefully try and capture us mentally, right? And it worked. I think Disney was really good for trauma bonding with a lot of people I knew. Like some of the people I know that are obsessed with Disney, like it's a trip to me. A handful of people, like I know more than one person who had a really rough childhood, and Disney is a fucking vibe for them. Like Disney is a happy place. It's a safe place. And I find that to be so interesting, like the trauma bond nature of Disney content and how as kids this like was instilled in us. When I was a kid, I thought Disney was fucking amazing, you know? Like I wanted everything Disney. I wanted all the Disney movies. Like I had friends who had every single VHS Disney there was. And to me, like, yo, that was pure gold. There's a certain handful of things to me as a kid, and that was one of them. Is if you had all the Disney movies on VHS, so you could just like pick a fucking Disney movie randomly. Bro, I can't tell you how as a kid that was like a big deal in my world. A big, big deal. Let's get into discussing Toy Story. I find this to be one of the more interesting series that Disney has. Disney doesn't have very many, of course, because Toy Story could just keep going. And it feels like, oh, they're going to keep making another one. Oh, they're going to keep making another one. But they just keep doing it. And it's good each time. Each one, I think, has different deep psychological roots. And that's really what I want to get into is what's the nature of the first movie and the second and the third and that kind of thing. I think Toy Story has a lot of different layers of interpersonal relationships and hierarchy correlations that we can get into when we think about Andy and ownership and how personality is projected into toys and how there's like levels to how all these different personality and these energies work and how we work as a, multifaceted interdimensional. So let's get into Toy Story number 1. So in the first Toy Story, Woody is the top dog. He's like been ruling the nursery and Andy's room for like ages. Andy's got all his posters. Insert Andy's birthday party. Mom gets Andy Buzz, and all of a sudden here we are like fighting on the ground, and now we're gonna go intergalactic and go to space. I feel like if you contrast cowboy to spaceman, you do have very polar backgrounds, like very polar differences, night and day almost. Very complementary as well. Woody is jealous as can be, and in an attempt to sabotage Buzz so that he can take himself to Pizza Planet for Andy's birthday, he sabotages them both, and the entire movie is about them figuring out how to work together as a team. It also correlates, I think, very heavily with Woody really emphasizing the self-importance and the value of belonging and belonging to someone, feeling very comforted by that nurturing and that space. The way that Woody does when he really engages Buzz to say, look, man, you're not just any old toy, like he got you for his birthday and blah, blah, blah. And then I love the dynamics of the first one because we don't see evil kids. Like Sid was a fucking evil kid. Like this kid was blowing shit up in his backyard. We don't see that on Toy Story. They're on after. And it was a stark contrast between Andy and Sid. I find it interesting that they both allude to mothers in the household. And so that's interesting to me, but we never see Andy's dad. We just almost actually assume that his mom is alone because we see her all the time. I find that to be fascinating how they did this first movie with the psychology of the parents. Like here's two boys living side by side. They both have little sisters. One's little sister is like a little bit closer to him in age, and who knows what Sid's backstory is. Like why is he in the backyard blowing shit up? His mom doesn't go out in the yard ever and see that there's like toys that don't match up, his mom don't go in his room where he has a tool shed and shit. Like there's clearly some shit going on at Sid's house and we're not even talking about it. Toy Story really put on to, I think, a lot of different psychological levels of that side of it, that it's not just about the toys, it's actually about the experience being had by the characters who the toys are so, either scared of or in love with. So I find the first one to be primarily about that friendship and that self-worth, but also the way that the first one really establishes that Buzz and Woody are a union. These two are a team. They're practically boyfriends. Like the way that they're going to work together as a team and, line up with all the other toys and figure out how to keep being the best they can be at being Andy's toy. I find it to be cute and bromancy. Like very bromancy, like almost a little too extra bromancy. But that's just me, because I think Disney's been planting certain types of energy in front of it. To wrap number 1 up, I like how they really reinforced like what happens to Buzz when he figures out he's just like everyone else. I think the best part of that is like that when Buzz is having this like identity crisis because he's just like everyone else, and Woody's like, are you kidding though? To this one person, you matter the most. And that is a fucking honor, because Woody's like passing the baton. Like, that's an honor, bro. I'm now in this position where I'm not that guy anymore, and I wish I was. I hope you understand how special this is. And to me, that the first one is very touching in the way that confidence is built about purpose and meaning and you matter kind of energy. Really, really cool. I really love the first Toy Story, like a ton. I like them all, but I like psychology. So there's levels that I think is easy and deeper to be discussed when it comes to having this little boy who fucking destroys toys. And then come to find out all these toys are like, in this support group together to help each other, and they all know each other. Oh, just like the other toys at the other house, right? Like, just because they don't look like your regular toys, like, don't judge a book by its cover. Oh, so cool. So cool. Okay, so now in the next segment, let's get into Toy Story 2. All right, so in Toy Story 2, if you remember, this is where we meet Jessie and Bullseye and Stinky Pete. This is where Woody figures out that at one point in time he was a celebrity, and he gets an inflated complex about how important that must be. There's a couple of layers that come into Toy Story 2 that I would take away as lessons. And one of them is teamwork. I think obviously throughout all of the Toy Stories, teamwork is kind of the name of the game. But in this particular one, because we hadn't had 3 and 4 yet, right? So we had only had the characters up until what we had them as. And the way that Buzz and all the toys at the house have to work together to figure out where the Woody is and sort out how they're going to get there. Like, there was a level of creative genius that I think they did when they put these characters together. And then when they put together message of sticking together, like the message of sticking together and not giving up on anybody, not actually giving up just because it looks hopeless or because the obstacle looks big. Toy Story does that a lot, but in this particular one, the fact that Buzz and all these toys had to like venture out of the house to figure out how to get to the toy store. Yeah, now I'm just saying. The other kind of key lesson that I think Toy Story 2 taps on is arrogance. At first, this is just an accident. Woody feels confident enough that he can go out and save a toy that Mom decided needed to go, because he was like, nah, we need the penguin with the no broke squeaker, even though Andy ain't touched this toy in 100 years. So instead of allowing that penguin to go get another home, Woody creates a whole movie out of the fact that he gets snatched up in the yard sale because he was down there trying to play hero. This is where Woody's arrogance comes in, because Woody always thinks he knows best, and this is part of his character. This is part of how he works as a character, is that he has a hero complex and he always thinks he knows best. So that hero complex, in tandem with being kind of a warrior and having some arrogance, means that Woody is always going to give us some good content, because we're going to have to pull his ass out of bullshit constantly. Probably not anymore, but we'll get there. In this movie, that's where we were at with this process, with the way Woody is operating. So I think that arrogance that Woody emits by thinking he's going to sneak down there and get this toy back and bring its ass back, and then the arrogance that he emits when his friends show up to get his ass, and he's like, yo, I can't give up on these guys. I'm kind of a big deal. I'm going to go be in a fucking museum somewhere. Like, yo, could you imagine if Woody would have stopped there? We have to be so thankful that his friends were like, yeah, we can't give up. He's been brainwashed. Like, what's actually happening? He's been brainwashed by his own idol worship. Yo, Toy Story 2 was deep. So that's one layer of this. I'm going to get a little bit deeper into this before we move on to number 3, because I don't want to make this podcast like an hour long, but I could. I totally could, but we're trying to stay within a good confine of time. So let's go just a slight bit deeper with Toy Story 2, and then we'll hurry and get into 3 and 4, and we'll do the same thing, and then we'll wrap it up. Okay, so the best part about Toy Story 2 is the way that we get deeper into the psychology of Buzz and Woody in the movie itself. First, we get to see the newfound kind of kingship that they both have carried as a union between the two of them. The way that they're like both ruling the toys and they're working together. That's why Buzz like has the power to organize all the other toys to go find Woody, because they've got this newfound kingship between them, right? I said romancy. I told you that. So then we get into Jessie and Bullseye, and how Jessie and Bullseye are kind of like this extension of Woody. Jessie's like a feminine version of Woody, so it's natural that she is going to have a cutesy little extra thing with Buzz. We'll get into that when we start talking about part 3. But Bullseye the same, right? Like, but Bullseye and Jessie are these kind of other dimensions of Woody's world. When they get to the toy store, as they're trying to figure out how to get to Woody, Buzz runs into the new Buzz with all the new features, and also the other guy, I can't remember his name, but he's like the rival, the main space guy that's basically like the Vader of that world. And it's all Disney now too, so I can say it like that. Reflection on his past. Woody had no idea about his past, but has an opportunity to see what he looks like fresh out the box. And that adds more dimension to how he felt in the first one, when he was just like, yo, I can't believe I'm like everyone else. I can't believe I'm not out here actually fighting cyborgs in space, Okay, so the only other thing to reflect on is Stinky Pete. And like, as the kind of main opponent to Woody, what he represents. And he represents a certain level of rigid tradition, rigid, stuck to old views. So you gotta think Disney has deep-rooted psychology for everybody's cycle and everybody's process. So on the surface, Stinky Pete's like mad because he's been in the box and no one wants to hang out with him, and he's the villain, and that's why he's the guy he fucking is, right? But on the deeper side of that, he's this like version of self. He's also an extension of Woody. He's also an extension of, well, I don't want to get left behind. Well, I don't ever want to be lost. Well, I don't ever want to have my fucking arm ripped off, because that happens in this one too, right? Is that Woody's arm has to be sewn back on, and he has to get kind of upgraded and renewed. The second one was really, really cool for rebirth process and looking at these different characters and the depth of where they've come from to where they've gotten to. Awesome. Let's get into part 3 of Toy Story. I'm pretty positive that part 3 is like my favorite one to just analyze the psychology of, because part 3 in Toy Story is actually very dark. Like, when you really get into what the main kind of core of this particular movie was, Toy Story 3 was all about abandonment issues and manipulation that is born out of abandonment issues. A whole bunch of layers of the experience the toys are having and the experience at the daycare is all about avoiding abandonment and controlling situations through manipulation in order to be abandoned less. This shit was dark. And then all those toys damn near were like ready to be incinerated together by the end of it. I thought Toy Story 3 was where they were going to be done because of how fucking deep they took it. And then, spoiler alert, like, don't listen if you've never seen the end of this, but they're saved by aliens. Fuck out of here. That's serendipitous, ironic, if you ask me. For what it seems like is like a set stage for a lot of other shit, this just seems like that is so subliminal. And these are all just opinions. What the fuck ever. I just like synchronizing and thinking about things, so calm down. Okay, so let's go straight into the villain of this movie. Yo, I don't care what anyone says. Lotso is the most traumatic bear there ever was. The way that he manipulates this baby. He's like a classic narcissist. The way he manipulates this baby to do all his fucking dirty work. And the way at the very end, he almost dies. They save his life and he's still a villain. He's committed. Just, for me, number one, for a kid's movie, that was intense to watch with Toy Story 3. I feel like Toy Story 3 was the most intense of all of them because of the ending scenes of this movie that I just spoiled for you in the previous segment. Now, for one, sometimes that's just how opposing forces are. They literally are they're opposing forces, and they're not changing. They're choosing the villain story. That's where they're going to stay. The only other thing I wanted to add about Lotso was the fact that he still lived at the end, right? He was saved, but he wasn't really redeemed, at all. To me, I find that to be a little bit different than what they've done with a lot of these stories. And it lends to why I also think that this one is the most dark of all of the movies, of all four of these Toy Stories. This one has the darkest plot, the darkest outcomes. Now, I think it's noteworthy to talk about Barbie and Ken as their supportive roles in this movie, because I think they really represent this idea of not judging a book by its cover, right? That they're both extremely superficial, materialistic, but they're lending to this idea that we can't judge people like that, because they might show up in the end and surprise you with how their heart is in the right place and their genuine nature is in the right place. So for me, Barbie and Ken was a really noteworthy stance to take when looking at this whole grand scheme of things, right? And also like how Ken was not like this until Barbie came along. Like Ken was just a savage doing the fucking bidding of Lotso the bear until Barbie comes along and she's like, nah, I'm gonna stand in my power and, you know, fight the oppressor. And Ken's like, but what, Barbie? So for me, I think their relationship was also noteworthy to make sense of when it comes to the plot of this particular movie. You know what? I decided. The only other thing I would bring into this is how Toy Story 3 was very much less about Buzz and Woody as individuals. And I thought that was a really clever way to make this franchise do something different. Was they gave a lot more depth and dimension to all these other characters as a whole sequence. The dinosaur, the pig, the potato heads. Like for me, Toy Story 3 really was like a lot more in depth with everyone. I think they expanded properly in the direction. I want to know, how long have they had this in the works? Is there a 5, 6, 7? Are we going to 10? How many Toy Stories do we get in the works? Because we're going to segue now and go into Toy Story 4. Because like now, where do they go from here? You know? Okay, so fast forward into Toy Story 4, where the toys have now established that they're with Bonnie, and Woody ends up getting stuck at an antique store where this doll has been essentially stuck in her low self-worth for who even knows how many years at this point, but she's needing Woody's voice box because they come from the same year. And so this little doll has had this idea or this expectation set up that all she needed was this one change and it would make her perfect. And her self-worth was based on this external change that she needed to make, and then everything would be perfect and line up for her. And as we know in the movie, that's not how that goes. So this doll has these creepy ventriloquist dolls that are basically her Goonies that snatch everyone up. So we're following Woody around as yet again, he's in some precarious situation where this doll is trying to take his voice box and he's trying to save a toy that the little girl Bonnie has made out of a spork. This is where we also get this identification of the spork sees himself as trash, and Woody is trying to express to him how special he is because he belongs to someone. He's not trash, he's a toy because he's been created by Bonnie. So there's a lot of cool layers to Toy Story 4 when we get into self-identification, self-worth, the ability to see one as a created individual as opposed to a disposable individual. That's Sporky's whole process, is figuring out that he's a toy and not a piece of trash because he's just a plastic spork. Bonnie made him. Bonnie put him together. Bonnie put pieces specifically for him, and she loves him just as he is. This is such a cool, deep-rooted psychological thing to analyze because we put ourselves in these positions where we feel disposable often. When we think about little kids and their toys, we understand that little kids with their toys are often projecting their own emotions into the toys themselves. So if Bonnie's a representation of our inner child, then Sporky is a representation of things that we do with our inner child, where we create certain things that we find to be very beautiful. They might also see themselves as useless because we see ourselves as useless sometimes. So I thought the psychology behind self-identification and self-worth, like what does your life mean to you? What does the value of life mean to you? Was shown all the way through Toy Story 4. To the doll, who is the villain, she just wants to be loved by this one particular little girl. And then when this little girl finds her and pulls her little string, this little girl does not fall in love with her as she's expecting. So every one of her dreams is being shattered. Yet our characters do the thing that they do best, which is teamwork and showing up and reinforcing worth into this doll by letting her know she can come be with Bonnie. Bonnie will love her. And on the way, she finds a lost little girl and fulfills a purpose. So it always kind of comes back down to this divine timing, follow your heart, work together as a team with the people who are on your same path kind of energy. I like the way that Toy Story expresses friendship. I like the way that Toy Story has worked for self-reflection. I like that Toy Story has a lot of different undertones when it comes to different ways that we view ourselves. If you can take each one of these different characters and embody them for a minute, you can understand how there are different places that you act like Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head. You act like the dog, you act like the T-Rex. Like, one of the main themes that we know to be true with Disney is this kind of undertone of embodying, casting in different types of roles and energies that we can see as personality types. I thought that was noteworthy with Toy Story 4. I also think that the way that Toy Story 4 ends, where he gets to kind of run away with Bo Peep. Woody finally decides he doesn't want to be someone's possession anymore. Like, he's ready to be free. And if you ask me, this is a representation of what we should be doing with our relationships. Like, if you're not with someone who has you feeling free and has you feeling capable to be yourself, you're not with the right person. You're with someone who restricts you and someone who you're just trying to figure it out, which is fine, but it's all about ownership. Like, Bo Peep is explaining to Woody that she's literally never been happier. She knows where to go if she wants to hang out with kids. And then for the most part, she gets to literally just live her life, taping up her busted ass arm and hanging out with her sheep and her raccoon looking roller car. Like, yo, Bo Peep is the example of the right partner comes along and literally offers you fun and excitement, and they're willing to build with you and help you grow as a whole individual. I love the way that this played out at the end, because it still brings me to tears every time I watch it too, because that choice to be free and to know that Bonnie is not going to miss out on Woody. She's going to miss out on Sporky because she's projected her emotions into Sporky, right? She's going to miss out on all her other toys because she's still projecting those. But Woody is this toy who's now kind of graduated his position. And I think that Toy Story 4, that's why I say, I don't know if they're going to do anything further with this, because how do you bring Woody back into the fold if he's not part of Bonnie's life anymore? It's neither here nor there. But to me, the way that they wrapped it, if this was the end of the franchise, was solid. It leaves us in a good spot where we know exactly where everyone's going to be for a while. And if they did reboot it, this would have to be some sort of weird, interesting, serendipitous way to get the toys to a new child. I hope they just stop where they are, because I think some things should just be left at pure perfection. We should stop trying to keep dragging it out. I like that they do all these little shorts. If you have Disney Plus, they do a whole bunch of shorts, and all the little short Pixar Toy Story little movies are dope, and they're funny, and they're usually less than 10 minutes. But those to me are the cooler way to do this, is now split it down into little adventures that they're having. One of them is Bonnie's play date, and it's the funniest shit ever, because it's just a play date, but the toys get so serious. Anyways, thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. I hope you like this episode. I have a bunch more Discerning Disney coming up after this, so stay tuned for this series. We're going to get into a handful of other Disney movies, and I don't want to spoil them. So once again, thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next time. Peace.